After publishing over 40 different nonfiction books underneath my own brand name over the past 5 years, I feel I've got a pretty strong grasp on outlining nonfiction books. In fact, I'm going to share with you today on how to outline a nonfiction book, and it's a dead simple process. It's going to blow you away, so make sure you stay tuned. This is Self-Publishing with Dale, and if you'd like to learn more about publishing books that sell and building an unstoppable author brand, make sure that you subscribe and turn your bell notifications to on so you don't miss a single video. Stick around to the end because I'm going to equip you with an amazing resource that's going to get you off and started with your nonfiction book. So I've written scores of nonfiction books underneath my own name alone, as well as numerous other pen names. So sure, I've discussed already I've done over 40 titles, but believe it or not, I've done scores more over underneath pen names. I have a very good grasp on writing nonfiction books. That's my wheelhouse, if you will. So I wanted to share a little bit about how to outline your nonfiction book, and it's easier than you think. I'd recommend you start out with 3 pre-gaming tips. Pre-game tip number 1, identify your reader. Before you start writing a single word or even outlining it all, you need to understand who are you writing for. And it should not be for everyone. Make no mistake about it. If you try to write for everyone, no one is going to read your book. So get good on who it is you're writing your book for. That way it makes the process so much easier as you're outlining. Pre-game tip number 2, research keywords and niches. I know it seems kind of goofy that we're going to go look at keywords and niches ahead of time, but it's also going to further cement down who our ideal reader is and how they're going to be looking for our content. I might say something one particular way. So for instance, when I talk about workouts here in the United States, it's known as bodybuilding elsewhere. Funny thing is, if you say bodybuilding in the US, you think about, the large muscled up, muscle-bound guys that are, huge weightlifters. There's a huge difference when it comes to the US. Well, this just further illustrates that you gotta understand what your reader is particularly searching for in your nonfiction book. Pre-game tip number 3, select a tentative title. Now, this one is not a must, but I think sometimes it helps to understand what you're really shooting for. And anytime I've had my title set out, I know exactly what's going to go underneath that title, and more importantly, what doesn't go underneath it. So it's going to make the outlining much easier. So use these 3 tips to your advantage. If you don't have these 3 tips set in advance, it's okay, but it certainly increases the likelihood that you're going to be able to crank out an outline in no time. The brain dump. Spend 30 minutes with a pad and a pen, and you're just going to write everything out that is relevant or slightly relevant to your particular nonfiction topic. Nothing's off the table. I mean, if it just crosses my mind, I'm going to write it down. Do not allow your editor to come in. So if you misspell something or you think, oh, this doesn't have anything to do with it, it's okay. Don't worry about it. We're going to suss out all those details a little bit later. I just recommend keep writing. You're going to spend 30 minutes and I want you to put a timer down. And if you start running dry on ideas, you're probably letting that inner editor come out. Just let it flow, let it go. Keep writing, keep writing, keep writing. Organize. You're going to take all these brain dumped concepts and I want you to organize them in a logical and sensible order. Don't stress on this particular area because once you're done with your first draft and you go into your first round of edits, you can probably start to reorganize things and rewrite them a bit later. Right now, we're just trying to get a sensible solution so we can kind of push forward. Ask questions relevant to the topic or ideas. Assuming you're a bit of an authority in your particular niche, I would just say think about common questions people ask you when it comes to your area of expertise. So I, for instance, get a lot of questions when it comes to fitness where people say, well, what's the best abs workout? Or how's the best way I can lose weight? You're going to think about those common questions people will ask you. If you're finding you're dry on ideas and you're kind of going, I don't know what questions I get asked, or I don't know what they do ask, Google is your friend. This is a crazy suggestion, I know, but the thing is a lot of people go to Google to figure out answers to their questions. So what I'll do is I'll start to type out any type of relevant question to my particular topic, and I'll let auto-suggest start to populate. Don't press enter, just fill it up and see exactly what are all the questions related to your topic. When you feel confident that something is pretty close to it, select it, and then it'll pull up the search page and just browse the first 16 selections and websites, and there might be some questions on them or maybe even some titles that might grease your creative wheels. Furthermore, scroll further down and you're going to see related searches. So this is another area of opportunity where you're going to discover other questions that you didn't otherwise think about. Organize the questions. I know we spend a lot of time organizing when it comes to outlining, but it's going to make the process of writing your first draft so much easier if you put everything, once again, in a sensible order. Figure out what just flows best. What's going to make it easiest for you to get from point A down to point B with little work in between. One of my favorite ways to do the organization of questions is taking a particular question that might tie in closely to another question, and I get it to where they tie in one after the other if I can help it. That way we can really break things up. Remove extraneous ideas. Okay, so now you've got to go through and pare out anything that is maybe questionable. You probably have a particular topic and you're kind of going, I don't know if my readers are going to like this, or this has become such a two-headed beast and a monster of sorts that you're kind of going, I can write a book in and of itself for this one. You can probably just copy, paste that on over to another document and save it for later, or even focus on that one in specific. The idea is you take each one of the brain dumped concepts with their questions, and those are going to represent an individual chapter inside your book. Again, don't get too hung up on this process. If it makes sense to go within your book, don't question yourself. Just go with your gut. You're going to ultimately know what needs to be put into your book and what can probably be put off for another project some other day. I've found oftentimes that when I'm writing an outline for a book, I will end up outlining maybe 2 or 3 books. So I will take some of those concepts and just put it on the back burner. This is one of the ways that I was able to just be so prolific with my writing. Was I really started jotting out an idea for one particular book, and then I discover there's 3 or 4 books underneath that outline. Fire away. That simple. Really, you've got your outline all put out. This doesn't need to be sexy, doesn't need to be perfect. You don't need to have it textbook to where it's the way you learned in school or through a college course. Whatever works for you is what works best. And at this point, all I typically do is I'll take those questions and I will start to answer those and make it to where you're going in full paragraphs and answering those. And I just maybe use some of those questions as subchapters. And every now and then, maybe a question will come up that you didn't otherwise think about that's related to another one, and you can create another subchapter. But hey, all the work is not done just yet. You know, you've got the outline all set and ready to go, and you're about ready to write it. But what are the next best steps? Well, I can assure you, I've got you all set. I will remove any ambiguity that you have in the publishing and writing process. When you join me over the DIY publishing course monthly, I have actually got a link to that right on over there. And you're going to take a look at that, visit it, and see the options that are available to you. Hey, I will see you over there.